YouTube family, what is good? Welcome back to another episode of yours truly. Listen, today I have a great video for you guys talking about, in my opinion, a forgotten about LOA teacher, if you will. In this space, we tend to a lot of times focus on Neville. A lot of people in this space are very Neville-centric, and I think it's important that we give credit to all of the great LOA teachers, law of assumption teachers or law of attraction teachers, whatever you want to call it, while at the same time understanding that there are people that are at different stages of different journeys of their law of attraction journey. Understanding that there may be people who, while they're transitioning from thinking and being one way to maybe thinking and being and acting more like Neville would, that transition period, what can they do in that transition period? And this is where I think a lot of law of attraction, other law of attraction teachers come in handy to help with that process. So now you may be someone coming from a more religious background, and you may be looking for someone, or you may resonate more with the teacher that is coming from that background of how you came from. And so that may resonate with you more, and that may help you make the smoother transition to eventually get to Neville's work, which is what I want to talk to you guys today about, which is a very well-known speaker, but also forgotten about, in my opinion, that became popular around the 1950s, the mid-1950s. This guy that goes by the name of Norman Vincent Peale, who wrote a book called The Power of Positive Thinking. And this guy was the mentor to the one and only controversial Donald J. Trump.
Norman Vincent Peale, a really great man, taught me everything I know. This is why I know I'm always right and you're always wrong.
I know a lot of you guys have a problem with Donald Trump. I know a lot of you guys think he's a narcissist.
Call me a narcissist, call me a misogynist. It doesn't matter. I've heard it all. I don't care. I'm rich.
A lot of people say whatever. Listen, one of the most controversial figures of our time, without question, in the 20th century and in the 21st century. One of the most controversial people ever, without doubt. But when you understand Donald Trump's history, when you understand who one of his biggest mentors was, which is this guy I'm getting ready to get into, Norman Vincent Peale, you'll understand the thought process behind why Trump is the way that he is. Because there's always a reason for people being the way that they are, but we never want to dive into that reason. We always just want to label people as being a certain way. Oh, this person is this because look at what they said, not knowing there's a reason behind why they said what they said. There's a reason behind Trump is as confident as he is. He didn't just get that way overnight. Nobody just really grows up that way overnight. They have influences in their life. Donald Trump was heavily influenced by his father. Donald Trump's father began going to Norman Vincent Peale's sermons in Manhattan because, as some of you guys may know, Donald Trump, he grew up in Queens. And so growing up, Donald was only like 6 or 7 when the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, came out. And Donald Trump's father used to drive him and his family from Queens to Manhattan to go, because his dad was really in love with this guy, Norman Vincent Peale, and how he spoke. And like father, like son. So as they got older, Donald grew up and began to take on his father's way of thinking. Donald began to take on Norman Vincent Peale's way of thinking because he had been going to see him speak at church for so long. So it's only right that he adapted his mentor. And like I said, in the 50s, Norman Vincent Peale came out with the book, The Power of the Positive Thinking. And basically all throughout the book, Norman Vincent Peale is just basically explaining you got to have intense belief behind everything that you do. You can't be halfway in, you can't be halfway out. And this is why a lot of people have lukewarm manifestations or less than lukewarm manifestations, because they don't really have the belief in the words that they're saying. They don't have that conviction at all in any of that type of stuff. And throughout this book, The Power of Positive Thinking, Norman Vincent Peale is basically explaining to everybody, you need to believe in yourself to the point of delusion, but at the same time, it's to the point of he mixes it in with like God and faith. So again, like I said, I make this content because I understand there may be people transitioning from a faith-based level when they want to incorporate God into their manifestation and different things like that. So you have to look at it that way until you might be able to, like I said, get to another point of like a Neville. But understand, Donald grew up listening to this stuff.
I just want to say I love law of attraction. All the other stuff is fake news. Fake news. Fake news.
Donald grew up understanding, okay, in order for me to get to where I need to be, I need to believe in myself. I need to have a faith that is basically crazy. I need to have a faith that is basically, in a sense, narcissistic. I need to have a faith that is basically impregnable, unbreakable. And a lot of people nowadays, if you don't know that, when you hear him speak, you would just automatically assume, yo, this guy's crazy, this guy's a lunatic. But this is why Donald Trump speaks the way he speaks. Why do you think when he speaks life? He literally speaks life into everything he does. Whether you hate him, whether you love him.
A lot of great people on both sides. Lots of great people on both sides.
The one thing, like, I give credit to where credit is due. Now, honestly, he said a bunch of shit that I don't agree with. But at the same time, I can't be biased and not look at what he's created from a law of attraction, from a law of assumption perspective. And I have to respect the fact that whatever this man speaks about, he literally speaks things into existence.
See, I know Marvin very well. Very, very well. Very well. I know Marvin didn't vote for me in 2016, but it's okay. He didn't vote for me in 2020 either, but it's okay. Follow his YouTube channel, one of the best YouTube channels in YouTube. All the other YouTube channels on Law of Attraction are fake news. Fake news. Fake news.
It's whenever you hear him talk about his buildings, oh, I'm going to build a building. He'll say something like, oh, I'm going to build a building in Manhattan. Oh, it's going to be the best building. Oh, I'm going to build a golf course. It's going to be the best golf course you've ever seen. Oh, I'm going to go over here and it's going to be the biggest, most extravagant. Like, when he talks about his buildings and describes his buildings and describes his projects and describes his life, he literally talks about it like it's going to be the best thing ever. Even back in the early 90s when he was getting ready to go into bankruptcy, and things were looking grim and the papers were writing about him, Donald's going to go into bankruptcy. Donald's going to lose everything. He never lost his conviction. He never lost his faith, even when everybody else around him was saying, yo, you're going to go under. You're going to be screwed. You're not going to have a penny. You got to pay back all this debt. He never lost his conviction. And guess who he credited? Norman Vincent Peale. He credited Norman Vincent Peale's work from the book, The Power of Positive Thinking, and from going to see him speak all of these years because he had been listening to it. And so it's embedded in him, right? His parents went, Donald went to go see him speak, and Donald eventually got married there. And I believe Donald Trump's sisters also got married where Norman Vincent Peale speaks, and Donald Trump's parents were also buried there when they passed away, I believe, where Norman Vincent Peale speaks at back in those days. You know, so Norman Vincent Peale had a very, very big, impactful part to play in Donald Trump's life and Donald Trump's rise to success. And this is the reason behind Donald Trump's so-called delusion when you hear him speak about winning the presidential election, when you hear him say certain things and it sounds outlandish. It's like, come on, this guy can't be serious. He's not getting ready to do all of that. But I'm here to tell you, you gotta be that way if you want to be successful. And Donald Trump is a perfect example. The funny thing is before he became successful, Donald Trump used to wear cheaper clothes. He was talking about in one of his books from years ago that he wrote, he used to wear cheaper clothes and then he started to wear better clothes because, again, like I talked about in my other videos, he started to take on that wealth mindset. And then the more and more he became engulfed in Norman Vincent Peale's work and going to see him speak and, you know, reading his book, look at what he became. He became a billionaire because of the power of his belief. When he says stuff, he believes and he has that conviction. So I wanted to hop on here today and just tell y'all, man, whatever it is that you want to go after, whether it's a specific person, whether it's a job, whether it's, you know, whatever, your career path, you want to make something right with a family member, whatever the case may be, whatever you got going on in your world, have conviction. Have unwavering conviction, the conviction of that Norman Vincent Peale talks about in his book, and I highly recommend you guys reading it. Get that conviction that a Donald Trump has about everything he touches, turning to gold, about everything he's touching is going to be successful. He never speaks a bad word about himself or the situations he's in, and he's in court right now, right? Going through whatever he's going through. I'm sure a lot of you guys are aware. But I guarantee he's not worried about this court case at all. I guarantee you he's speaking words of affirmation or whatever the case. I don't know what he's telling himself right now. All I know is he's telling himself the right thought. He's telling himself he's already won. He's living in the end. So, like I said, I just wanted to hop on here today and tell you guys to be aware of your inner dialogue. Be aware of your inner conversations, because your inner conversations and the conviction and the belief you have about yourself, about whatever the situation, circumstances you face, are going to determine what happens with certain said situation. If you speak life, then you're going to have life. If you speak death, then you're going to have death. What's that proverb say in the Bible? Life and death are in the power of the tongue. And again, Norman Vincent Peale's book, The Power of Positive Thinking, is a great, great book, because it has some scripture in there for those, again, that are making a transition from maybe being more scriptural to the other side. This book is a great book that if you don't like the law of assumption stuff and you think it's, too out there, you're afraid that interferes with your religious beliefs, or whatever the case may be, this book, I believe, is perfect for you, because this guy that wrote this book was a pastor, but at the same time, he was very criticized around his time period for his works and his teachings, kind of like somebody like Rev Ike was as well, the way that they teach, because we're taught God is outside of us, right? We're taught that, we don't really have no control, or whatever the case may be a lot of times. But, people like Rev Ike, people like Norman Vincent Peale, and people around that time period, they began to express a different side. They began to show, wait a second, no, we actually are gods. We actually have the power. We actually speak life into what it is that we want or don't want. Whether it's good or bad, we're communicating all the time. And this is why Donald Trump is one of those people, like I said, love him or hate him, the fact that he never says a bad word about himself. And it takes an immense amount of affirming, it takes an immense amount of belief for a person to literally get to that point to where you don't speak like any negative words about yourself. You don't speak any negative words about a situation you're in. Your back's against the wall, even though he has said things in the past that I didn't agree with, or done things in the past that I didn't agree with. I cannot deny the fact that this man really believes in himself. He speaks things into existence. He knows what he wants, and everything he touches, literally, for the most part, seems to turn to gold. And I attribute that to his delusional belief in himself, which is what you need. But eventually it hardens into fact. As you guys know that follow Neville, whatever you believe, whatever you assume, eventually hardens into fact. So Donald has that assumption. But if you don't know that, if you don't study Donald Trump and his past, if you don't study law of attraction, the law of assumption, when you don't know these things, when you see a person behave and act, you will just automatically assume, oh, this person's a narcissist. Oh, this person's full of themselves, or this person is this, whatever label you want to throw them, but you don't really know and understand this person has a belief in himself that most people on this earth will never grasp, will never understand, will never get to. And that's okay. I'm sure he knows that, but that's okay. But you got to understand, that's why he has the life that he has. That's why he created that, because he had the ultimate belief and conviction about himself. And that rubs people the wrong way a lot of times. People are afraid of confidence. People don't like people that are confident. That's why when people say confident things, it rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Now, we're shifting out of that era, if you will. We're shifting out of that time where, people are more and more starting to draw towards people that speak against certain things. People are becoming more and more drawn to people that speak confidence and speak life and show that bravado, that moxie. We're going down towards that path now, and it's becoming more prevalent for people to speak out and be confident and say those things without people getting offended. But years ago, you could never be that outlandish. You could never be that whatever chauvinistic or whatever, especially like 30, 40, 50 plus years ago. That stuff was looked at as a sin. Like, who does this guy think he is? He's talking like this. Da-da. But nowadays, it's become way more acceptable. And I think people like Trump have been pioneers to this type of stuff becoming more successful with people speaking out. And I really do think that's why he won the presidential election, because of his belief, but also because he was politically incorrect. He said things that people were thinking. He said things that other politicians wouldn't have dared to say. This guy has no filter. He literally does not care what anybody says. He's politically incorrect. And I think that was a breath of fresh air to people who thought some politicians were too politically correct, and they wanted to see that human side. And Trump brought out that human side of being a politician, because he's not a politician. He's a businessman. He's a real estate developer. He was coming from the other side. He wasn't coming from, that side of the spectrum as most people that become president do. They come from being senators or whatever the case may be. Trump came from the other world. So listen, I just wanted to hop on here today, man, share that with y'all. There's a reason. Next time you want to go judge your favorite celebrity, you want to go judge your favorite whoever, or somebody that you don't like, you don't understand most likely there's a reason behind some of the confident, arrogant, hubris things that they say. There's a reason behind that, because you don't know that reason. But just because you don't know that reason doesn't mean you should automatically judge. And hopefully today's video kind of gives you an idea into how you could end up being, how you could start to change your own personal beliefs to mold yourself into becoming that person that you want to become, whether it's manifesting a specific person or manifesting your dream career, your dream life, whatever the case may be. It's been another episode of yours truly, Mars Room. See you guys next time. You know where, you know when. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to click the next one, because I'm sure you'll enjoy that one too.